Kasey. I am back with another episode of Kasey Talks Critters. Today we are going to be talking about Salefin Dragons. They are my favorite. I think they're such a cool animal. I don't have a ton of experience with them, so I brought on some experts. I brought on Aly Balles from the Misfit Zoo Project and Alex Myers of the University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point. And between the two of them, oh my God, they have so much knowledge about these guys, and I can't wait to share that with you. So if you like this video, make sure you like it and you subscribe to our channel, and also hit that notification bell so you'll be notified for more videos like this. We're going to be doing this about once a month, potentially even more frequently if we get more episodes and more guests on. So really excited. Let's roll into it. So hi, Alex and Aly. How are you guys?
Hi, we're doing pretty good.
Awesome. Who do you have with you?
This is Karis. Karis is a 4-year-old Philippine Salefin Dragon.
Wow. Isn't that a cool looking lizard?
Who's a little antsy today. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. Awesome. And thank you, Alex, for joining us as well. You don't have any critters with you.
No, I don't. But any chance I ever have to talk about Salefin Dragons, I definitely try to dive into it.
That's awesome. Yes. We will get into that very soon. So I guess to start this episode, I want to talk to you both about what is your experience with animals. So Aly, why don't I ask you first? What is your experience and how did you, what is your job working with animals?
It's kind of a long story. I was raised in a household with reptiles. I wanted to be a veterinarian, and shortly into my veterinary career, I ended up losing most of my vision and I went into renal failure. So I started a nonprofit working with special needs and disabled reptiles. That's how all of that started.
Oh my God. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And, but oh my goodness, like you are doing so good. Like the work that you do is so phenomenal for these guys, and it's just kudos to you, definitely. And Alex, you're still a student, so what but you have so much knowledge about reptiles. What are you studying currently?
At the moment, I'm actually majoring in wildlife education, minor degree in captive wildlife husbandry and techniques with a focus on reptiles and amphibians, as you can imagine. But then before my schooling career, I've done a ton of volunteer work at various facilities, former the Friends of Scales Reptile Rescue, got my fair share working under Ryan and Erica McVeigh, who now run VivTech Products, just learning how to rehabilitate rescued animals. And then even before that, I was a volunteer at the Wildlife Discovery Center in Lake Forest, Illinois. That's Rob Carmichael's facility. And I mean, from there, you're 14 years old, learning how to work with large constrictors, monitor lizards. And then, of course, my first in-person introduction to Philippine Salefin Dragons. They've got a breeding pair there, so I got to learn the ins and outs. Now at the moment, I'm just working part-time at my local exotic shop.
Oh, so cool. I mean, that's fantastic. And that is... If you watch any of the other, for our fans, if you watch any of the other Kasey Talks Critters episodes, we really talk about how people get started with their animal careers. And Alex is a great guest for this because he's literally in the process of doing it. And he's so experienced. So definitely keep an eye on this kid. So we're going to be talking about Salefin Dragons.
Yes.
And I want to know why you guys think they're so cool, first of all.
I think it was more, for me, it was more of a feeling than anything else. The second I saw Karis, he was my first. I saw him come out of the box, and it was those big eyes, and as I was talking, he was tilting his head to like listen, and it was just instant head over heels in love with an animal, and I hit the ground running from that point.
What about you, Alex? What is so cool for you?
I guess this just has to go back to a lot of my mentors and colleagues within the herpetoculture community, and especially those who just have years of experience. Is the Salefins have always been a lizard that no matter how many times I see them, I'm just always wowed. And I'm just amazed by them. And for me, that's just what makes them phenomenal to study, phenomenal to work with when I've worked with them at other facilities. And for me, it's just they are the lizard that drives me to keep wanting to work with reptiles, because if you're not looking at the animals you keep and you're telling yourself, wow, that is an incredible animal, what's the point of keeping them at all? And for me, that's what Salefins are.
Yeah. Oh, that was great. That's a great explanation. And I totally agree with that because, like, we take in pets into our homes and you gotta love them, right? Like, you're not
Exactly.
gonna provide the best care if you're not crazy about the animal, right? And that's not because people are negligent. It's just passion, right?
Hmm.
So you're gonna do better if you love what you do and
Right.
you love what you're taking care of. Absolutely. So like I said, my experience with these guys is so limited. I've just been obsessed with them for probably about the past year and I've just scoured the internet. I just stare at photos of them. So when I saw Aly walking around Tinley with a sailfin, I just about lost my mind and was like, I need to talk to her and Alex about these guys. So I'm so excited about this episode. Why don't we segue into the open discussion about Salefin Dragons? So I know there's 5 subspecies, correct me if I'm wrong, and Aly has worked with 4 of them. What about you, Alex?
So, just from working with other keepers' collections, I've been fortunate enough to work with all 5 major species. Arguably, they could be broken into subspecies status based on certain morphological variations we see coming out of Indonesia. Until those studies and the specimens are collected and reviewed, at the moment there are 5 species, 2 of which occur sympatrically on Sulawesi. You've got one from the Philippines, Hydrosaurus pustullatus, and then your 2 Moluccan species, Hydrosaurus weberi from Halmahera, Ternate, Tidore, and then Hydrosaurus ambonensis, which occurs from Ambon, Suriname, arguably parts of Papua New Guinea, although that could be argued that specimens collected there are in fact Hypsilaris, which I'm not even going to go into. All of which, though, are within the United States herpeticulture. Scott Corning, who is the man that pioneered sailfins, one of the keepers that I look up to personally, and then Ryan Schrammel is another well-versed keeper of a bunch of agamids. They are the main 2 people that I got my work with the species
Very
done.
cool. So I have to correct myself. I said subspecies. And this goes back to taxonomy, and I'm not that great at it. So yes, they are species, not subspecies, because they have different genus and species. Correct? Right?
So the genus is the same throughout all 5, and then when we say subspecies, that would be, say, for example, the old rat snake taxonomy. You had Pantherophis guttatus, and you had Pantherophis guttatus emori, the emory rat snake versus the corn snake. So subspecies refers to that third name in binomial nomenclature. With sailfins, they're all in the same genus, Hydrosaurus, family Hydrosaurinae, and then the species are split up between Ambonensis, Celebensis, Microlophus, Pustullatus, and Weberi.
Wow. That is so much Latin. I love it. Very cool. No, that's fantastic. Like the idea of taxonomy to me is so interesting, of classifications and stuff, but I get very confused. I will be totally honest. So let's talk about them as a pet. Do you think that they are tricky to establish? And have you found any methods that are useful? Maybe, Aly, do you want to field that one?
These are one of the hardest animals I have ever worked with. Especially with the imports, the fresh caught imports. They are very, very difficult to establish. Unfortunately, the mortality rate for those is typically very high. There's a lot that goes into it. And again, being such a high care species, it can make it difficult for beginner reptile keepers. I would definitely classify these for more advanced reptile people.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Alex, do you have any input onto why they would be tricky to establish? Is it a humidity thing? Is it a heat thing? What do you think?
Pretty much both the 2 points you highlighted. And again, to to cite Scott Corning, the very first thing he told me is that you're taking a lizard that lives in a riparian environment. It is exposed to high heat and high humidity all the time. I mean, they're from Indonesia and the Philippines, practically on the equator. It's shipped in a box overseas to stay at a pet shop or a wholesale facility with an ambient temperature of 72. To give you an idea, there are areas of Sulawesi where the record low is 72 degrees at night. So, and then the average keeper maybe has like a fish tank, basic insulative properties of glass with a screen top. Your cage, no matter how many heat lamps you have on there, the ambient temperature is going to stay the same as your house. So that lizard's going from 85, 90 degree days to a day that never peaks above 68, 72 ambient temperature. They're dehydrated, they're stressed. Similar to the Chinese water dragon, this is a species that does not comprehend clear barriers. So they will relentlessly rub their face against transparent sides, which again, too, if they see excessive movement, say it's again a pet in a bedroom, you're sitting on your bed playing video games maybe, and that lizard's running around bashing its face against the sides of the glass, it's pretty much asking for that animal to die. And so from a care perspective, again, the average keeper might not be aware of this. It doesn't help that there's limited resources out there on the captive care of this species. Even within zoological collections, I rarely see sailfins housed at zoos that are quote-unquote perfect. They almost always have nose rub. They just look dehydrated. I think it's just because a lot of the care standards, and again, it's no fault to the zoos or professional facilities, they just don't have the updated knowledge and techniques that hobbyists can quickly evolve to, since there's always going to be more people keeping them privately than there will be professional facilities with them.
Okay, my next question is, do you think their popularity is going to increase in the future, or do you think they're kind of where they're going to plateau out? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't, honestly, it's kind of hard to tell right now. Karis, a second. Sir.
I love it. You're a tree.
It's a little difficult to tell at this point. What we're seeing is a lot of wild caughts being brought in, but not many of them making it to adulthood, like Alex said. And another thing, like Alex said, there's such limited information available, and that's something that we're trying to change. But as of right now, with how things are going, I don't really see them getting popular, so to say.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of factors that go into it.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think that might also have to do with the fact that they're, the thresholds of what they need are so precise, and
Yes.
that makes them that advanced species. And so, yeah, it's going to definitely limit the amount of keepers in the pet trade. And then not having resources is a whole nother thing. So, like,
Right.
like husbandry and all of that is coming a long way with many species where there wasn't care sheets available for a lot of the animals that you could go pick up at Petco. So it's like we need to be better about providing all of that education, and I really hope to provide that with this show as well.
Yes.
I'm super happy to do this for the Salefin Dragons because I love them so much.
Yeah.
So we kind of talked about this already. Alex, maybe you can answer. So who do you think this animal would best suit?
It has to be a hobbyist that understands what they are, understands how to keep them correctly, and understands working with them long term, which unfortunately all the criteria I just mentioned pretty much again fits that category of an advanced hobbyist. And I'm not trying to say advanced both as their experience with keeping reptiles, but somebody that can do it long term. What I've noticed, and again, my very short time, I've only been keeping reptiles for about 12 years personally, and really involved with the community for probably the past 8 years, is that there are a lot of keepers who are successful with breeding, and then they get out and they sell the whole collection. Now, if it's little geckos or ball pythons, that's easy. It's a very manageable species. But when you have 3.5-foot lizards, which have very demanding requirements, you truly have to be in it for the long haul. And there are few people that can probably do that correctly. Maybe there's more. From what I understand, there's plenty of people who just don't use social media and keep reptiles. Many of which who probably have Salefins right now that are easily in their teens. It's like people, again, to quote the great Scott Corning, he's the man who pioneered the Philippine Salefin Dragon in the United States. But yet we still don't see a ton of Philippine Salefins around. So where are all the babies that he sold? Maybe there's just people off the grid loving their pets and they're not selling them. Or maybe there's people that just sold them over and over and those animals just stressed and died. I don't know. I don't have that data. I don't have that information. Yeah. So the right type of people are out there, I'm sure. It's just a matter of when they're keeping and breeding the Salefins so that they can hopefully acclimate. Again, I don't know. Yeah. Until we see it, we'll never know, which is scary to think about.
Oh, I know. It is really concerning to think about, the breeding projects, they go to a home and then they're not successful. Like, that's really sad to see that happen. It's also very sad to see all the wild imports come in and fail and not thrive the way that we would expect them to. So very, very sad stuff all around. So these animals are so important and very, very, you need to know what you're doing if you want to bring home one of these cool dudes. Like, they are so cool. You need to know, though. Like, it's not an impulse buy. Do not go to a show and pick one of these guys up. You're going to set yourself up for failure, essentially.
Yes.
It's important to note, too, that, again, following trends within current people who keep and breed reptiles is, I think lately a lot of keepers have this mindset that it's like a ball python or a leopard gecko. It's going to breed the first time you do that. And then they try a wild-caught species for the first time. Going back to when I was working at Friends of Scales, Ryan McVeigh said something to me that heavily imprinted that most imported animals take a rough average of 3 to 5 years just to acclimate, because they're in an enclosed setting. The barometric pressures of North America are way off from Indonesia. And then you throw a male and a female together and you think, oh, they're going to make babies just like a species that's been captive bred for 10, 12 generations, like a bearded dragon. And you're trying to make first generation captive bred ones. Like, good luck. So the idea is that we do see some people with adult Salefins. They keep pairs together for a couple years and then they sell them because they don't breed. It is a long game. They need to acclimate. They need to have a routine. They need to understand the seasonal changes of their specific reason. How Aly keeps her Salefins in Wisconsin is totally different than how Scott Corning does it in Florida, or a couple contacts of mine all the way in San Diego, California. Yeah. So you have to not only adjust to the needs of the animal, but then the seasonal variations of your exact climate. Because once they pick up on the cycle, which again might take 5+ years, not everybody wants to wait that long. We have this instant gratification desire, which with this species you will never get. You might be the 1 in a million person that does, and maybe you'll do it once and then it's another 10 years. So the key is it's a game of long-term waiting, which again, I think that's the big turn off for some people, and arguably the reason why we still don't see a lot of people breeding this species.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Now, if someone is interested in not breeding Salefins, they do want them as a pet. I can see that this boy is very snuggly with you right now. How are they as an actual pet species?
Every Salefin is going to be different. Karis has been to every educational event with me. He's had thousands of people pet him. He's had a lot of exposure to people. He doesn't really care. From what I've noticed, this is a rarity right here.
I figured.
They're not really an animal that you can snuggle, get out, hold all the time. But it also, I mean, the work you put into your animal is going to show. I've built a lot of trust. I've put a lot of work into him. But also knowing his limits too. When he's done, like when he tells me he's done, I make sure he's done.
I understand that. I haven't worked with Salefins, but our red Argentine Tegu, she lets me know when she's done, when she doesn't
Yeah.
want to be handled anymore. She lets me know. I understand. She's sweet as anything. She's, puppy dog sweet, but
Hmm.
when she's done, she's done.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the case with a lot of reptiles. So,
Yeah.
it's what makes them fun. So, because this is a Zen Habitat show, does Zen have an appropriate product for this species?
So I personally have not tested anything from Zen. I have talked with Emma a little bit about things that could possibly work for them. So it is something that I would be interested in trying out. Everything Emma and I have talked about so far, I mean, everything seems pretty accurate.
Yeah. I guess I can explain a little bit what I think would work really well. So what we made for our Tegu is an 8x4x4 PVC enclosure using 4 of our 4x2x4 enclosures with a max extension kit. So it gives her this massive enclosure. Do you think something like that would be appropriate for these guys?
As long as it can withstand the heat and humidity that these guys require, it should, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So they're PVC, and we have a ventilation screen on the top, which comes with a humidity shield that covers about 75% of the top of the screen. So you would have 4 of those. So it does a really good job. If you can provide the humidity, our enclosures can support up to 100%.
Okay.
If water, if you can provide it. But that's the tricky thing, right? Is how do you get that much humidity into that enclosure, right? You got your misters and your foggers, and you're just constantly pumping it in there, right? Without
Yep.
oversaturating it.
Yes.
It's a fine line.
It's a delicate balance that we dance on a daily basis.
Yep, understandable. So, Alex, maybe you can answer this one from our fans. What are good staple diet items of the Salefin Dragon?
Again, I'm gonna cite Scott Corning for everything, and Ryan Schrammel, of course, too. There is no staple diet for this species. Scott always preached that they get bored eating the same things over and over. Having worked at Scott's place, I can tell you every feeding time is something different. They never get the same food item back to back. The key is providing the nutritional aspects in a varied setting. So one day you'll do collard greens, the next day you'll do mustard greens, then the next day you'll do turnip greens, and then you do some insects. Maybe you do fish fillet like tilapia or salmon, something really rich in beta-carotenes and carotenoids, and then you switch it up to, again, insects one day, and then back to a mixture of greens, say collards one day, and you so on, repeat it. Because if they're eating the same things over and over again, one, it's not mimicking what they're eating in the wild. They're surrounded by dozens, if not hundreds, arguably thousands of plant species on these islands and areas where it's just loaded with vegetation.
So
and then they're
there, yeah.
exact, and then they're picking off small invertebrates that run around. I believe the Canadian rep for ZooMed, he's an avid breeder of the Philippine Salefins. He's been to Bohol Island and has observed them eating a type of freshwater crab there.
Ooh,
off the rocks. So invertebrates
cool.
there. There's another documentary on YouTube. It's in, I don't know the native language of the Philippines, but you can see an adult female chase down and eat a smaller Salefin dragon. So they're built to be quite opportunistic and very omnivorous. And then again, they readily eat insects in captivity. So we can infer that if they're targeting insects in captivity, they're probably eating those in the wild. Otherwise, they wouldn't eat it. I could go into the whole debate over opportunism in an enclosed setting, as we see with other species. But the idea is that if you're feeding the same thing over and over again, you're not only creating a nutritional imbalance, but then the lizard's just going to get bored. Food is one of the greatest forms of enrichment for any captive reptile or amphibian.
Yes.
So, I would get bored eating Special K every day, even though I do because I love Special K. But the idea is that for a reptile, collard greens one day, give them a fast day, and then do a source of protein. Which Salefins, I guess I should have highlighted, again, according to Scott, about 50-50 feed the adults every other day, greens one day, protein source the next, back to greens the next other day, and they do the rest.
Wow, that's impressive. So these guys are kind of like little garbage disposals, like in the sense of for fresh produce, you could pretty much get whatever from the market and just throw it into the rotation. That's awesome. But I'm really interested about the fish part. When you're feeding fish, are you feeding frozen fish or are you feeding fresh fish? Like, how does that work?
Wait, frozen thawed tilapia fillets, salmon fillets.
Okay.
Scott was having me cut them up, dust
Yeah.
it with the calcium multivitamin powder depending on the day, and
Interesting.
feed it to them. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a nice lean source of protein, and
Yeah.
arguably in the wild, if they do catch fish, I haven't found any studies that show fish in their diet, but in captivity, they're also not getting as much exercise. So fish are a fine exception where I personally would feel comfortable offering a piece of the fillet versus the whole prey, because the fillet will not be as calorie dense as a whole prey item. But of course, insects, which are very lean sources of protein, and again, there is plant protein in vegetable matter. So I know Aly avidly feeds bananas and other like blueberries, other small amounts of fruit. Obviously, in moderation, you don't want to feed too high of a sugar diet, but variety is the key. Just do a little bit here and there, keep it consistent, and you'll have a beautiful sailfin.
Yeah, I have to say, I love all of your videos of feeding the sailfins bananas. That is my favorite to watch. I love it so much, and their little smushy faces. Oh,
That is
so
the
cute.
one thing that they will eat back to back are bananas. If there is one thing a sailfin will never get tired of, it's
It's
bananas.
bananas. Oh, that's so cute. I
And
love that.
that's our daily bonding right there. We all share a banana.
Oh, my heart. I don't have any critters that want to share with me, so I was gonna say I'll maybe with my Savannah monitor I can try to like I'll share his bugs. We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Delicious. So okay, another question we have from our fans is what is the typical life expectancy, and does this vary based on the different species?
I'd say, again, quoting Scott Corning, over 15 to 20 years. I've personally held a female of his that's 27 years old. So that
Wow.
lizard is older than I am. So
Wow.
with good care, they're going to live. From an ecology perspective, it's important to realize this species has filled the niche of arguably Cyclura in a riparian environment. So Cyclura is like your rock iguanas. Rhino iguanas can live into their 60s. Sailfins evidently don't live that long, according to Scott. And I mean, let's say Aly, some of your sailfins, I know, like Karis is 4, and Taiki, she's easily in her. That's another female pustullatus specimen that Aly has, is easily in the double digits, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
with good care, they're going to live, which further highlights their commitment. But the thing is, for people who want to breed, they will breed at older ages. I know there's a couple guys up in Alaska, the business is the Reptile Barn. Their female pustullatus lays 5 clutches a year, and I think that specimen's 11 or 12 years old. I know Scott has females in their teens that are still breeding. Like they are meant to live a long life, produce clutches. They just take longer to mature, usually about 5 years for the females. So that's the thing, is it's a commitment, but it's a big, beautiful commitment as far as lizards go. I mean, there are few lizards I have found that can beat the impressiveness of an adult male of any other species.
They're
Yes.
so beautiful. So we talked about the temperature and the humidity needing to be really high. What
Yes.
is the actual heat range? Because we talked about like the minimum at night, or like the lowest is like in the 70s. So what
Yes.
is our actual temp range?
So for younger sailfins, I usually have basking spots at about 115 degrees. For adults, my basking gets up to about 130. Humidity wise, I don't even read the hygrometer anymore. I'm not gonna lie, I just keep it going.
Well, yeah, especially I'm assuming we want to be somewhere in the 80 to 90 range. So yeah,
Yes.
you're just going to keep pumping humidity into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So as far as heat's concerned, that's very similar to a lot of like, other lizards like uromastyx, you need that really hot basking spot. So like I feel like keepers they can definitely provide heat. It's when they need to provide the humidity is where
Humidity. Yes.
that's where it's like you can either do one or the other. I feel like a lot of keepers struggle to do both. That's not to say that everyone does. I just think that like when we're working with like say crested geckos, our temp range is so wide and like it's easier to keep that humidity up in a lower temperature. When
Yep.
it's hot, so much harder. Yeah. Oh,
You open
I
the
understand.
cage door and it's like a sauna hits you in the
Yes.
face.
And it definitely gets that greenhouse smell when you open
Yep.
it. You're
Yep.
like, I know that's our Tegu enclosure is very similar, like in the sense that like I feel like I open that we have a lot of moss in there for her, so like when I open it, it's just like poof, heat,
Yep. Yep.
humidity, smell. Not a bad smell. It's just the smell of the moss. It just smells like a greenhouse. Okay, so this one's. I want to circle back to what Alex was talking about a little bit earlier. So, Alex, why are there so many babies and not that many adults?
As we highlighted, it's just the import trade and acclimation of those imports. A lot of people have access to sailfins. A lot of people that have access to these baby imported sailfins do not have access to the right materials to care for them. It's the same dilemma we see with dozens of species in the reptile industry, which is unfortunate because there are a handful of people who are breeding some of those uncommon species. The thing is, it's the lack of access to information and proper products. So
Yeah.
a lot of baby sailfins, a lot of dead baby sailfins.
Oh, it breaks my heart, but it makes sense, like, especially if, you're not educated necessarily and you are impulse purchasing. So say you go to Tinley, you find a booth that's got wild caught imports, and then you have captive bred guys. And if you are buying this dragon as an impulse, you might look at the price tag and be like, oh, I'm definitely buying this wild caught, not thinking about all of the things that could go wrong later, or right away, actually, like parasite, pathogens, like all of those things. And especially like if you have you have a reptile collection, you bring that home, you're going to have to quarantine. Like, well, you should be quarantining anyways, but like I would be very, very nervous to bring home a wild caught specimen for sure. All right, I think we went over a ton of great information about sailfin. So now I kind of want to talk to you guys about more personal stuff because like I have mentioned in prior episodes, like I have had a lot of mentors. I still have a ton of mentors, and I want this show to help our fans who might want to work with animals in some sort of capacity find their pathway. And so by having a bunch of different guests with different backgrounds, I think is a great way to help them kind of figure it out. So
Absolutely.
I think, let's see. So since we're going to do this, I'm going to go Aly, Alex, Aly, Alex, Aly, Alex. Aly. Aly, what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career similar to yours?
Love what you do and definitely be patient.
That's good life advice just in general.
In general, yeah.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think that's very important. Because if you don't like it, how are you going to succeed? You're not going to be passionate about it. So you got to like what you're doing for sure.
Absolutely.
So this next one, I'm going to ask Alex. What is a common myth about your current projects that you might want to debunk? Is there anything that might be kind of iffy that people think?
As far as like just my own independent, I guess, research. And when I say research, I'm not doing that through my academics. That's just like as far as sailfins go, is trying to network. A lot of people, it seems, think that you can just source everything online with how accessible the internet is. And if there's anything I've found pertaining to my current knowledge of Salefin Dragons is that if you want to understand not just the species, but what goes into them, you can find a decent amount as far as research papers go, but it's all about communicating with the people because especially keepers, they've seen those animals every day for 5, 10, 15, some 20 years. They're going to know them way better than any YouTube video or professional academic journal you read out of.
Yeah, no, I think that's very important. That should be the case with working with any animal, really, is networking is so important, and it's really great to get advice from people that are more experienced than you. That's definitely makes sense. Aly, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, there's a lot we would have to talk about.
I feel that.
Might get a little deep, but don't put off what you want for other people.
That is something that for our younger fans is, you are the most important person in your life.
Yes.
You got to take care of you first.
Yep.
And you can't take care of animals if you're not taking care of you.
All of this. Yes.
Yes. So I think that's very, very important for sure. Wow, guys, we went over so much really cool stuff. I'm going to ask you each the same question. Alex, you first. What is one question you wish I asked that I didn't, and how would you have answered?
I guess you would have asked, how does the science and ecology understanding of a species such as a Salefin dragon apply to their captive care and their success? Because at least I would have answered within herpetoculture, while you did highlight care sheets, a lot of new keepers seem to grow this care sheet mentality and they lack critical thinking. They want to start with a bearded dragon, there's a care sheet for it. Then they want to go into something like a Rankin's dragon. Well, there's definitely care sheets out there, but maybe they're just a slight bit different. You want to go from a water dragon to a Salefin, good luck finding an up-to-date or even accurate care sheet when, if you critically thought, Google Scholar, academics, experienced keepers are going to have the answers. Thinking critically is something that I would definitely highlight in that case.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. Absolutely. And as a vet tech, we're always needing to use our brains for critical thinking because, our animals can't talk to us. So we need to figure out what's going on. So yes, you need to use your noggin to get that all figured out for sure. And that is a great thing. That's the thing. I don't think people necessarily would go right to Google Scholar. It's not something that they would think of, but I think that's an excellent piece of advice if anyone is looking to learn more about any species, not just niche species, but really anything. You're going to get the best, peer-reviewed actual facts. So I think that's very important.
Type in the binomial nomenclature of what you keep, and you will not be disappointed with the results you find. You might actually be surprised.
Yeah, no, I love that. I hope everyone goes out and goes to Google Scholar and types in what pets they have and see what awesome papers come up. I'm going to urge everyone to do that. Go do it. All right, Aly. So the last question is for you, and it's the same one that I just asked Alex. Is there one question that you wish I would have asked, and how would you have answered?
I'm trying to think, and honestly, Alex nailed everything on the head.
Yeah, awesome. But that's why you guys are such a good team. Look at that.
Almost everything that I've learned has come from Alex. And I mean, Alex and I are on the phone till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, just talking about Salefins for hours. This is where I've learned mostly everything that I know from. So yeah. Alex and I are a package deal on the Salefin.
Yeah. No, I think that's amazing. And then for our viewers, if you go back to episode 1 with M, we talked about Chinese water dragons, and she mentioned her mentor multiple times. It is this guy. It's this guy on camera right now. So make sure you guys check out that episode too. Maybe then you got a face to the name and you might understand a little bit more. I don't know. I just think it's fun.
Emma's doing good work with the Chinese water dragons. And I know when I was discussing with her at Tinley, she's going to have some pretty big plans down the line. And it's exciting because that's another species like the Salefins that needs more recognition and needs more captive breeding.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what her projects turn out to, what your projects come out as. I'm so excited to follow you all. So Thank you again so much for being on the show. I think we learned a ton. We got to hang out with that really cool lizard. Oh my God. And you guys have just been a wealth of knowledge, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it, drop us a comment, subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell. We're going to be doing more episodes, and I can't wait. I don't know what the next animal is going to be. It's going to be something really cool, though, so stick around. We'll have another episode coming up in a few weeks.